Namaste everyone, and welcome back. Let's just dive right into today's explainer, shall we? Today, we are unpacking a really fascinating and honestly, a highly complex financial investigation. It surrounds one of the most revered and massive public trust projects in recent history, the Ram Temple in Ayodhya. Now, we are going to look strictly at the numbers here, the structural vulnerabilities, and the ongoing probe into a massive donation theft. Our goal is to take a completely objective, data-driven journey through these financial operations, figure out where the security broke down, and really highlight the crucial lessons in institutional accountability that we can all take away from this case.
70. I mean, it's just a staggering number. According to the recent Special Investigation Team report, there were 70 recorded instances of theft from the temple's donation boxes. But here is the absolute kicker. All 70 of these instances happened within a remarkably tight window of just 40 days. It creates this incredible contrast, doesn't it? On one hand, you have a site of just immense sacredness and public reverence, and on the other, you have this incredibly brazen, repeated series of crimes happening right under the surface.
So that brings us to the core mystery we're exploring today. How could a massive, systematic theft occur repeatedly in such a highly monitored, high-profile environment? It honestly seems almost impossible given the sheer scale of the project. To answer this, we need to take a bit of a forensic accounting journey, moving from the initial mystery of these missing funds all the way to the strict accountability measures that are currently unfolding. We've got to follow the money.
All right, Section 1. Crowers and donations and expenses.
To truly grasp how something like this could slip through the cracks, we first need to understand the macro finances at play. Since it was established back in 2020, the trust has received a colossal total of 3,264 crore rupees in donations. The largest chunk of that, about 2,370 crore, was directed toward temple construction and major works. But look at the operational side for a second. By March 31st, 2026, recent offerings alone amounted to 582 crore rupees, with 391 crore utilized purely for operational expenses. Guys, we are talking about literal mountains of physical cash and valuables coming in every single day. When you have that much raw capital moving through a system, any tiny flaw in your financial plumbing is going to lead to massive leaks.
Section 2. How did this massive lapse happen?
Well, where exactly was that flaw in the plumbing? The investigation has actually led to the arrest of 8 individuals, and it reveals a pretty shocking story about access. Out of the 8 arrested, 6 were private employees from a Varanasi-based agency called Sainik Security Services. One was a trust employee named Tinu Yadav, and another was a former bank employee who wasn't even drawing a salary for this work. Here is the operational vulnerability in a nutshell. The bank hired a private agency to count the massive daily influx of cash, paying these individuals a salary of roughly 20,000 rupees a month. You essentially had private, relatively low-wage workers granted direct, daily access to millions in uncounted cash.
But it gets worse. Let's look at how this whole situation escalated, because the timeline reveals a massive red flag in the institutional narrative. 3 months prior to the arrests, the State Bank of India actually noticed suspicious activities. They formally warned the trust and recommended swapping out the cash-counting staff altogether. However, according to the probe, this absolutely critical warning was ignored. In fact, bank officials allege that members of the trust pressured them to keep those specific individuals on board. And that direct chain of events leads us to the present day, where the Special Investigation Team had to step in and make those 8 arrests.
Section 3. Recovery and scope of investigation.
Once the arrests were made, authorities found incredible amounts of cash when they raided the residences of the accused. The numbers are just incredibly precise. Avinash Shukla had over 20 lakh rupees stashed away. Karunesh Pandey had over 18 lakh. In total, nearly 80 lakh rupees in physical cash was recovered right out of these homes, alongside metal coins and jewelry. Keep in mind, these were individuals taking home 20,000 rupees a month, suddenly sitting on tens of lakhs in completely undeclared cash.
But the authorities are not stopping at just the physical cash found stuffed away. They are invoking BNSS Section 107. Now, this is a very strict legal provision used to target disproportionately acquired properties. The SIT is out there actively tracing the personal wealth of the accused to see exactly how much their assets inflated after they joined the temple project. They are fully prepared to recover the stolen funds by liquidating these illegally acquired assets.
And the probe is widening significantly beyond just the cash counters. The SIT has pulled 5 years of records from 7 different banks just to track the financial trails of everyone involved. Furthermore, they're looking really closely at non-cash assets. The trust had previously sent 944 kilograms of donated silver to the government mint for melting and quality checking. So now investigators are probing a pretty dark possibility. Did the accused melt down stolen, donated jewelry into completely untraceable gold biscuits to destroy evidence? The lack of recovered jewelry during the raids has made this a top priority for the SIT, and it significantly raises the stakes of this entire operation.
Section 4. Accountability and Crucial Lessons. Okay, let's take a step back from the specific crimes for a second and zoom out. What does this mean for the institution itself? There was a massive systemic flaw that allowed this to happen in the first place. When you look at the trust's governance, they actually had very strict oversight of cash. Cash donations and income were heavily discussed and audited during their mandatory quarterly meetings. However, the jewelry, the gold, the silver, these valuables lacked a detailed, regular inventory check. There was no regular agenda item evaluating the exact weight, quality, and stock of physical valuables. It was an asymmetrical security system, incredibly strong on paper currency, but super weak on physical assets.
Which brings us to the core lesson of this entire explainer. Immense public reverence and the sacred nature of a project do not, and frankly cannot, replace the critical need for strict financial governance. No institution anywhere is immune to human vulnerabilities and greed. Rigorous, completely impartial audits are mandatory. And perhaps most importantly, when your banking partners raise a massive red flag about the people handling the money, you absolutely have to listen to them. Ignoring institutional safeguards always invites disaster, no matter how noble the cause.
So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. We've seen the vulnerabilities, we've seen the arrests and the ongoing recovery efforts, but the real question is, will this high-profile investigation serve as a permanent wake-up call? Will these systemic vulnerabilities drive permanent, unshakable transparency reforms for all massive public trust projects moving forward? It's a question of governance that goes far beyond this single institution. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this structured look at the data helped clarify exactly what happened and, more importantly, why it matters. Keep asking the tough questions, and I'll